In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made.
For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. It's Sunday night, Untethered Live Bible Study night. I'm your host, Jake Johnson, and tonight we're in the great book of Matthew, chapter 16, verse 5. That's where we left off last time. That's where we're going to pick up this time. I feel much better tonight. Thank you very much for putting up with me while I was sick. Here I am, ready to rock and roll, ready to rock you like a hurricane or something. Bill Bennett says, hi, Untethered Live family. It's Bible Study number 1. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate the vote of confidence. You get a gold star for being the first in the chat tonight. And Amanda says, here's your gold star, Bill. Appreciate you. And hi, by the way. And Amanda says, hi, Untethered Live family. It's good to see you all. I hope everybody had a good weekend. And hi, Jake. How are you tonight? Less fluey, more energetic. I'm getting there, one day at a time. Angela Hashkins is says, hello all. I'm actually on time. You are, and congratulations to that. Welcome, Angela. Angel Eyes, welcome. Amanda says, hi, Angela, good job. Angela says, hello, Amanda, hello, Bill, and hello, Jake. Well, hello, Angela. Mr. P's here. He says, hello, all. Hey, Mr. P, what's up, buddy? Amanda says, hi, by the way. Angela says, thanks. It's been a rough week. I need prayers and financial miracles, don't we all? The squatters doubled the utility bills before they left, and I just can't afford it. They are $200 more than what I have. Well, stick to it. You'll get there. Rich S. says, hi, everybody. Hey, Rich. Good to see you. William says, hi. Hi, William. Are you new? I don't remember you. Welcome. Come on in. Take your shoes off. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you at? Who are you? And what do you like? Amanda says, hi, Rich and William. Mr. P says, hi, Rich and Angela and Amanda and William. And Angela says, hello, Rich. And hi, Mr. P. It's fantastic. We got a nice crowd tonight. Getting started early. I was supposed to have a rehearsal tonight, but nobody showed up, so I guess everybody felt bad today. 6 of one, half a dozen the other. I got an extra nap, so I feel good. Angela says, hello, William. And William says, YouTube. Does that mean you're with YouTube or you're from YouTube? Because we're all from YouTube. I mean, that's where we're at right now. I am on 11 other places, but YouTube especially. But welcome to the show nonetheless. We're going to do Bible study tonight. We're going to talk about the book of Matthew, and you're welcome to join us. And at the end, you can add your 2 cents or your 2 nickels, because we're not going to have cents anymore very soon. I don't know if you've heard, but it costs more to make pennies than pennies are worth. So they're going to stop doing that. It's kind of funny, actually. Mr. P says, stiff neck, dagnabbit. I think I'm getting something. If you got a stiff neck, you better go to the hospital, because you probably got meningitis. Rich says, hey, Jake, I'm preparing to go after Matthew Dillahunty on his call-in show. Well, Rich, please do. And did you watch that episode that I did where I took him down? I couldn't stand that guy. I don't like Matt Dillahunty. And Bill says, William is Skylar, my son, and he is here with us. Well, hello, William, Skylar. Those are 2 very different names. I wouldn't have guessed that in a million years, but hello. I am glad you're here. It's kind of random. I like it, though. I had a grandfather named William. And Amanda says, hi, Skylar-William. Mr. P says, hi, William. Sorry I missed your name in the chat. Diego's back. Hello, everyone. Hey, Diego. Good to see you. I feel like your last name was different last time we met, though. Pretty sure it wasn't Eduardo. I like it. It's just different. Angela says, I shoveled the driveway, and I had a seizure. It was scary. My neighbor came over and stayed with me while I was having my seizure, and then helped me into the house. I did get almost all of the driveway done. Well, that's good, and I'm sorry you had a seizure. Take your medicine, and don't do strenuous exercises. I'm sorry that happened to you. Linda says, hi, everyone. Hey, Linda. How are you, sweetheart? Amanda says, hi, Diego. Diego says, still concerned about my situation. Everybody is, Diego. Walter's here. He says, good evening, all. Hey, Walter. And Amanda says, hi, Linda, hun. Heart. Diego says, Eduardo is my second name. I kind of figured, but I thought it was something else earlier. What was it originally? Diego says, with the things that I shared with the AI. Well, nothing to worry about there, Diego. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but Trump won the election, so AI is on the downslide. Rich says the sad part is that some atheists and agnostics are better Bible scholars than most Christians, but I am not worried about defending Christian ethics. You shouldn't have to, because Matt Dillahunty has a very slim basket of tricks, and if you figure them out, he's going to argue those points every time, and if you know the answers to those questions, he'll be no problem at all. If you're going to debate, keep your cool, don't attack, don't insult, but every question he asks him another question regarding that question. And he will run out of ideas. Promise. Amanda says, hi, Walter. Diego says, I'm just praying to God that things will be fine. Things will be fine, Diego. The world will keep spinning, I promise. Angela says, hi, Diego and Linda and Walter. Mr. P says, and Diego and Skylar, hello. I hope I didn't miss anybody. My hellos are implied, LOL. Often I'm doing other things while listening to the show. Me too. Bill Bennett says, William Schuyler Bennett. I like it. That's a good name. Good, strong name. That sounds like somebody that has money. William Schuyler Bennett. Of the William Schuyler Bennett Foundation. I like it. Fuentes, that's it. Is my last name. So your name is Diego Eduardo Fuentes. Nice. Throw an Antonio in there and you could be Zorro. That's a Mexican joke. I hope you get that one. Walter Davis says, hi, Jake, Amanda, Diego, Angel, Bill, Mr. P, and Rich. And Mr. P says, I lost my place. Where are we in Matthew? Matthew 16:5. That's where we're going to pick up tonight. 16:5. Google Gemini is the name of the AI, says Diego. You'll be fine, I promise. It's not as smart as they pretend it is. I've already had battles with AI, and I won. I forced AI to admit that I was right. And so I don't fear the AI. Mr. P says, hi, Walter. And Amanda says, 16:5, Mr. P. Mr. P says, thank you, prayers. You're welcome, Mr. P, says Amanda. Diego says, some of the things I said about myself are embarrassing. Human reviews will see them and keep my conversations for 3 years. It'll be okay, Diego. Here's a clue, though. Don't say embarrassing things to computers. Probably a smart move. Angela says, all my kids have 2 middle names. That's interesting because 2 middle names runs in my family, though. I didn't get one, but a lot of my kinfolks have 2 middle names. Diego says, but I hope Trump's victory gives me a breath of fresh air. It will. Give him time. It's only been 2 weeks. It feels like 2 years. Give him time. He's getting there. Rich S says, why do all these people have monkey wrenches after their names? What does it mean, Rich? That means that there are a moderator for this channel, and you can be one if you show up and prove yourself. And that means that they have powers, that they can do things that other people can't do. It also turns their name blue. And if you really want to have power, you get yourself a J tag. You can do that by hitting the join button over there in the corner. That J tag is special for special reasons. And the wrench means we're moderators, says Amanda. Correct. Oh, like kick me out? Yes. Yes, if you have a wrench, you can kick people out. But I only give wrenches to people I trust not to kick people out unless they need to be kicked out. Diego says, I'm currently reading a gospel harmony that combines passages from all the gospels into one account of Christ's life. Well, you can do that by reading Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, but I'm sure you could condense them all together. They all tell the same story, just from slightly different perspectives. Mr. P says, rarely use the powers, only in extreme situations. That's right. Amanda says, I got special powers, LOL. Patty's here. She says, hello, I'm in. Hey, Patty. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well tonight. We're just about to get started here in a couple minutes. Amanda says hi, by the way. Angela says, hello, Patty. But no, you don't need to worry about Google. They're just a thing. Miss P says Amanda's special powers. She has the power of the you-know-what. The power of the voodoo. Hoodoo. You do. Do what? Remind me of the babe. Remember that? That's an old saying from an old movie or two. It's been in more than one movie. Patty says, thank you, the Remnant of God channel. Thank you, Patty. I think we are. I hope we are. Angela says, I never use Google to search for anything. Well, it's kind of hard to because everything is curated now. The internet is dead. There are no wild websites out there to find. They're all corporate, and they're all suggested by Google. And if you go down the list, say you type in a search and it says you have something like 10,000 hits. If you take it seriously and go down each rabbit hole, you're only going to get about 4 pages in, and then all of them are fake. They're all blank. The internet is dead. Mr. P says The Labyrinth, good. But it's in a movie before that, and it's been in a movie after that. Diego says, Jake, God bless you for helping me, bud. Just giving you an update. I went through nightmares concerned that police could come for me for Google searching sensitive topics. Well, did they come? Apparently, we don't live in England. Mr. P says, great movie, yes. And you're welcome, Diego. It's my pleasure to be a friend. I'll try to be a friend to everybody. There's a better app than Google. It's called DuckDuck Privacy. Yeah, DuckDuckGo is pretty decent. There used to be a thing called Metacrawler, but that kind of went away. There also used to be a thing called Coppernick, and it searched all the search engines. And that kind of went away. So I don't know. Everything kind of went away. The 90s were awesome. There was all kinds of things you could do. Can't really do any of it anymore. I don't like that very much. I don't like what they've turned the internet into. It's not fun anymore. Now it's just utility. Just something you have to do. It's not fun. Anyway, enough about me. Let's talk about the Bible. That's why we're here. If you got your Bibles handy, crack them over to the great book of Matthew, chapter 16, verse 5, and let's go down, shall we? Pardon me. Rich says, have you guys ever been on the dark web? It is not for the faint of heart. Yes, I have been on the dark web. I, too, am a curious soul and like to know what the world really is. And so I have looked. And there's some... I looked in the 90s when you could actually go on the dark web. Now it's all FBI agents and such. And now they're just putting things out there to try to catch people. It's not exactly the same as it was when the Silk Road actually existed. But, you know, you live and you learn. All right. The great book of Matthew, chapter 16, verse 5, and it reads, and when his disciples were come to the other side, they had forgotten to take bread. Well, that's unfortunate because there's a lot of people, and you know Jesus likes to feed people, so why didn't you bring bread? Then Jesus said unto them, take heed and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. Who are these people? Pharisees are like Bible scholars. Sadducees are scribes. All right. In another part of the Bible, Jesus will be talking to the Pharisees and the Sadducees, who seem to be the subject of his ranting. What do you call it? His parables. They seem to be who he's pointing these at. And what he does, he correctly describes them. He calls them by their name. He says, you are of your father the devil. Oh, you generation of vipers. He uses language like that to describe the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Why? Because these people who were in this time frame are descendants of Cain from the beginning time period. And that's how you know who they are. And they're called Kenites, Kenites in the Bible. And if you find that word, you understand you're talking about descendants of Cain, not people who lived in Canaan, which is a different thing. They're called Canaanites, which is why there's a confusion in the name. Anyway, the leaven that Jesus is referring to is yeast that causes bread to rise. But he uses leaven as a metaphor for sin or for enmity. So anytime he's telling people to beware of the sin that's in the group of people that causes them all to change, like one bad apple in a cart of good apples, the same way the woke mind virus attacked all college campuses across the world. It looked like overnight. It seemed like it just happened because I went to college, 10 years prior to all of that. And it wasn't like that. The only thing you had to worry about on my campus was 903, which was a Christian group, and vampires, people playing vampires. That's it. There was no wokeness on campus. And then there was. It's really weird. But that's what he's talking about. It's a mind virus. It's a thing that people catch by being in a crowd of people. Same reason the Nazis caught on, You'd think that you have a world full of people and one bad guy like Hitler, and he says, go round up all the Jews. You'd think somebody'd say, no, we're not doing that. No, everybody capitulated because they thought they were doing what they were told to do by the people in charge. That's called a mind virus, and it captures more people than we'd like to care to admit. Anyway, beware of the leaven of the Bible scholars and the scribes is what he's saying. Why? And they reasoned among themselves, saying, it is because we have taken no bread. That's not what Jesus is talking about. We don't care about your bread. Stop worrying about the bread. Let's talk about the leaven in the bread. Which when Jesus perceived, he said unto them, O ye of little faith, why reason ye among yourselves because ye have brought no bread? Do you not yet understand, neither remember the 5 loaves of the 5,000? And how many baskets you took up? Have you forgotten who you're traveling with? You're still worried about bread. I just fed 5,000 people with 2 loaves of bread. Like yesterday. Have you forgotten that already? These people are incredibly dull. Neither the 7 loaves or the 4,000 people like a week before that. How many baskets did you take up of that bread? How is it that you do not understand that I spake it not to you concerning the bread? How is it that you don't understand by now? Pardon me. Not completely healed yet. Yes, I know Hitler was not German. He was Austrian, but he was in Germany. That's where Hitler did his thing. That's what I meant. Okay. What is Jesus going on about? They're concerned about having forgotten to bring bread. And he's telling them, do you not remember the 2 times prior to this that I took what little bit of bread we had and I fed everybody with it, and you took up scraps enough to feed them all again? You know? Do you not know right now who you're traveling with? I'm not talking to you about the bread. How is it that you think that? He's talking to his disciples who should know what he's talking about. That you should beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and of the Sadducees. How do you not know what I mean by that? And then understood they how that he bade them not to beware of the leaven of the bread, but of the doctrine of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. So what he's saying is, what they are teaching is wrong. It sounds good. It sounds biblical. It's from the Bible, but it's twisted. Beware of that. Be cautious of anybody that twists the words of the Bible. Those are Pharisees. And when Jesus came into the coast of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, whom do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? Who are people describing me as when you go out and talk to people? Who do they say that I am? And they said, some say thou art John the Baptist, some say Elias, others say Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. And he saith unto them, but whom say you that I am? And Simon Peter answered and said, thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. That is correct, Peter. All of these Jewish people that they've been in contact with have heard of the prophets because it's part of their culture, right? So they know the times when people prophesied from God, and they know the big names like Elias and Jeremiah, and they think, and John the Baptist, and they think maybe Jesus has returned as one of those spirits in a new man. But Simon Peter gets it right. The Christ, the anointed one, the Son of the living God. Amen. And Jesus answered and said unto him, blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, or son of Jonah, for flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. Nothing on this earth has told you who I am, but God in heaven has opened your eyes, and you see who I am. So bless you for that. And I say unto thee, says God, that thou art Peter, not Simon, Peter. And upon this rock will I build my church. The word Peter is Petra, and it means rock or foundation. And Christ is telling him that believing that he is the Son of God is the foundation on which he will build the church that will exist, that is the bridegroom of Christ, right? Which does not currently exist in this time frame. So you have to understand what he's saying to him. Not upon you, upon what you just said to me, your belief that I am the Christ, the anointed one, the Son of God, the living God, is the foundation on which I build this church. And the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. True. And I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Then charged he his disciples that they should tell no man that he was Christ Jesus. Why? Well, because if they went around bragging about who he was, it would call way too much attention to him way too fast, and he wouldn't get a chance to get done what he needed to get done. This is why he chose anonymity in the beginning. And from that time forth began Jesus to show unto his disciples how that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed and raised again the third day. Now, keep this in mind. We haven't even really began in Jesus' journey yet. This is the very first book that talks about his journey. And at this point, he is telling his disciples who he is and what's going to happen next. And they do not hear him. I need you to be clear about that. They hear him, but it ain't sinking in. They hear Christ. They got that part. They hear Son of God. They got that part. The whole I must go die, they do not hear that. Because when it happens, it is a complete surprise to these people. Complete. Like they didn't see it coming. What? Now he's going to be crucified? He's telling him now that that's what he has to do. Then Peter took him and began to rebuke him, saying, Be it far from thee, Lord, this shall not be unto thee. Whoa, Peter, you can't talk to the boss that way, right? He's the boss's kid. You can't talk to him that way. If he says it's going to happen, it's going to happen. You can't stop it. Anyway, then Peter took him and began, I read that one. But he returned and said unto Peter, Get thee behind me, Satan. What? I thought I was Peter, the rock on which you were going to build your church. Didn't you just give me authority to bind things here on earth and in heaven and loose things here on earth and in heaven? And now you're calling me Satan? No, he's calling your actions Satan. And what are you doing? You are questioning the important mission of Christ, which is to his purpose on this earth is to die. That's why he came here. And if you question that, if you impede that, you are actually damning everybody, because the reason for his death is to cover your sin. And if you question that, you are hurting everyone, which is why he says, Get behind me, Satan, because Satan is the guy trying to stop Jesus from covering everybody's sin, because if everybody's sin is accounted for, Satan wins. See how that works? Thou art an offense unto me, says Christ. You are offensive to me to even suggest that you'll stop my crucifixion. I am here to die. I'm going to die. I don't need you protecting me. That's what Christ is telling Peter way back then. Now think about this. Doesn't Christ go into the garden and cry to God for hours, asking him that if there's any way possible for this cup to pass from me, that I don't have to do this, if there's any way to avoid me dying? Didn't he do that? No, he did not. You misunderstood what that was, and I'll tell you what it was when we get there. This is Christ right here, accepting ownership of what he's got to do. For thou savorest not the things that be of God, but those that be of men. You're not concerned with what God has in store. You're just worried about your feelings. Facts don't care about your feelings. Neither does God. Then said Jesus unto his disciples, If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. What? If anybody will follow me, then let them follow me. Doesn't matter who they are. Doesn't matter what religion they are. Doesn't matter what kind of guilt they're under. Doesn't matter anything about them. Only thing that does matter is that they take up the cross and follow me, denying themselves. What does that mean? That means that you can't be an individual and follow Christ. You can't. You either have to let him lead and you follow like a puppy, or you can't be part of that group. if you have your own ideas, if you have your own intuitions, if your own plans, you can't follow Christ because you have to follow his plans, his ideas, his intuitions. That's the idea here. So that's what he's telling them. If anybody, you included, if anybody wants to follow me, they have to deny themselves so that I can be. But they have to take up their cross, which is a burden to deny yourself, and follow me. Another place it'll say that you have to love less. He says hate your mother and father, but the word is love less. Anyway. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it. And whosoever will lose his life for my sake shall find it. Right? If you martyr yourself in the name of Christ, you have gained something big because Christ notices those things. Then he hits him with a little wisdom and he says, for what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? What have you gained? Say you became the richest man in the world. You had the most power ever. But in the process, you lose your soul. What does that gain you? Nothing. Because when you die, and you will die, all that money and power stays right where it is. You cannot take it with you. You cannot convert it into heavenly coins. It just doesn't go. You lose it, and then you're dead and alone. And then you have to face God with a broken soul. It does not profit you to gain the whole world and lose your soul. He says, what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? How much is your soul worth? Well, first of all, you can't sell your soul because it doesn't belong to you. It's not yours. You just have it for a loan. God created it. It belongs to God. You're just using it. You have some autonomy because you have free will. But believe me, it's not your soul. So Christ confirms that right here. What on earth or in heaven could you exchange for a soul? You can't. For the Son of Man shall come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and then he shall reward every man according to his works. That's what you got to worry about. What are your works? Faith without works is dead. You have to do something to make something, right? If you want to make an omelet, you got to break some eggs. If you want to be a Christian, you got to get out and walk the walk. You can't just have faith. That's not good enough. That's hiding. Christ continues, verily I say unto you, there be some standing right here, which shall not taste of death, till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Now this is interesting. What does that mean? Does it mean that the disciples are still alive? No, they all died. But they got to see Christ transfigure. So they did see the Son in his kingdom. And all of them, by the way, every single one of them that called themselves a disciple of Christ went to their death refusing to recant that he was the Son of God, refusing to admit that they lied about anything. Now, you tell me, if somebody had a knife to your throat and they asked you to admit anything, would you? To stop from dying? They didn't. They went to their deaths knowingly and willingly without admitting to anything other than what God said, which means they witnessed something that they knew to be true. They saw something that happened that they understood to be factually correct, and there is no way you can repent against something you know to be true. You can say the words, but they don't mean anything. Anybody listening will hear it if you know it's true. And after 6 days, Jesus taketh Peter, James, and John, his brother. James and John are brothers. And bringeth them up into an high mountain apart. So they're separate from everybody else. And was transfigured before them. What does that mean? That means that Jesus, James, John, and Peter, Jesus' two brothers, and Peter, remember the rock Okay. They went up into a mountain, and Jesus turned into a spiritual form right before their eyes. I don't know what that would have looked like, but I would imagine it was pretty awesome. And I believe that's when they saw what they knew to be true. He was transfigured before them, and his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment or his clothing was as white as the light. And behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elias talking with him, the two prophets that will appear in the end times. I don't know that to be sure, but there they are, talking with Jesus about the plan, and the plan ends in the end times. So I think that's probably who they are, the two prophets. Then answered Peter and said unto Jesus, Lord, is it good for us to be here? If thou wilt, let us make here 3 tabernacles, one for thee, one for Moses, and one for Elias. It's not good for you to be here because I brought you here. Jesus brought him here to show them he is not joking, to show them he is the Son of God, in fact. Now, did Jesus know he was the Son of God? Well, he transfigured into a spiritual form before he started his ministry, so yeah, he knew. He understood exactly what he was here to do. And while he yet spake, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and behold, a voice out of the cloud which said, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear ye him. Wow. God shows up at this meeting. God himself. In a white cloud, and speaks audibly, which would probably be Gabriel, the archangel, talking, but nonetheless, it's very interesting, the group of people that is on this mountaintop. And when the disciples heard it, they fell on their faces and were sore afraid. I bet they were. I would be too. But Jesus came and touched them and said, Arise, and be not afraid. And when they had lifted up their eyes, they saw no man except Jesus. They all disappeared. They're gone. Elias, Moses, and God have vanished. And as they came down from the mountain, Jesus charged them, saying, Tell the vision to no man until the Son of Man be risen again from the dead. In other words, don't mention this until after the crucifixion. This is the 3rd time in a couple of days that Jesus has told them directly he's going to die very soon. They do not hear him. And his disciples asked him, saying, Why then say the scribes that Elias must first come? Well, because the scribes are twisting the word of the book, as they always have. And Jesus answered unto them, Elias truly shall come first and restore all things. What does that mean? If you go forward in time, you get to the tribulation. And once you get to the tribulation, all things on earth are kind of going to go bad. And then you get to a period at the end of the tribulation where 2 witnesses appear in Jerusalem. And for 3 days they walk around preaching and spitting fire and calling down things from heaven and such. And then they're going to be killed in the streets, and they'll lay in the streets for 3 days. And then some other stuff will happen. I don't want to give away too much, but just understand that at that moment, things are going to change, because that sets in motion the beginning of the return of Christ. Before that, he's not coming until that happens. When you see that happen, then you can start looking for the signs of him showing up, because he's right around the corner at that point. But one of those 2 prophets is Elias, as mentioned earlier. In fact, Jesus just confirmed it. He says, But I say unto you that Elias is come already, and they knew him not, but have done unto him whatsoever they listed. Likewise shall they do to the Son of Man, and he shall suffer them. Let me reread that. Likewise shall also the Son of Man suffer them, whatever they wanted. Elias was already here when he was Elias. And they didn't listen to him then. They're not going to listen to him in the 3 days that he's here, setting the stage for Christ to come. And similarly, Christ is going to suffer whatever they want to do to him. And then he's going to die by their hands in return and do the same thing. But then the disciples understood that he spake unto them of John the Baptist, the man who was in the spirit of Elias. So not only did Elias come as Elias, but he came as the spirit of Elias in John the Baptist, preaching the same thing. They beheaded him, and so came he in the spirit of Christ. Same spirit. Think about that. It's interesting. And when they were come to the multitude, there came to him a certain man, kneeling down to him and saying, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is a lunatic. What is a lunatic? A lunatic is someone who is vexed by the cycles of the moon. Apparently, the moon has a sway on people. And when it is a full moon, people go nuts. If you don't believe that's true, call the police station or the hospital and ask them, what's the busiest night of the year? And they'll say the full moon. Anyway, or Halloween. But the word lunatic is derived from person who is affected by the lunar cycle. Anyway, another word for that would be lycanthrope, which would be where we get the legends for the werewolf. That's stretching a little, but that is all in the matrix of what that word means. Anyway, have mercy on my son, for he is a lunatic and sore vexed, for oftentimes he falleth into the fire and often into the water. And I brought him to thy disciples, and they could not cure him. Why? Because they have not enough faith. That's why. It's very simple. Christ is going to give them a little bit of an attitude adjustment here. These things are caused by devils. And then Jesus answered and said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him hither to me. What is he telling his disciples in this sentence? How long must I teach you how to do this before you can do it for yourself? Jesus didn't do anything they couldn't do. If they had the proper faith and understanding, they could have done anything Jesus did, even walk on water. Don't believe that? Why did Jesus call Peter out onto the water? We covered that last time. And Jesus rebuked the devil, and he departed out of him, and the child was cured that very hour. That's how you do it. You can't question the devil. You have to have authority over the devil. You understand that? You are in charge of the devil. He can only tempt you if you don't give him the right. He cannot do it. Simple as that. Then came the disciples to Jesus apart and said, why could we not cast him out? They're talking to him in private now because they don't want everybody else to hear that they're not as good as he is. And Jesus said unto them, because of your unbelief. It's in here. Because of your unbelief, you couldn't cast this demon out. Because you don't have enough faith or understanding or clarity about what your mission is. You're questioning too many things. You're confused about too many things. You're not clear on what you're doing. And if you are, then you can do it. Because of your unbelief. For verily I say unto you, if you have faith as the grain of a mustard seed, you should say unto this mountain, remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove. You might have to do it 1 cup at a time, but it will move if you have enough faith. Means there's no such thing as no or can't. I learned this very early on a job site because there's many things when I was a young man that I could not accomplish, right? And then my dad would always jump in and do it. And it drove me crazy. Or whoever it was I was working with. Might have been my dad, might have been other people. But it drove me crazy that I couldn't do it. And it's because I gave up too soon. It's because I didn't realize there's no failure. You have to do it. You have to get it done. You got to get this thing in the pipe. There's only one way to get it in there. It's got to go in there. If you break it, then you bought it. You got to do it again, right? So the truth is the only way to do something is to do it. There is no try. There is no failure. There is no I can't. There is no I just can't do it. That's not how you get it done. You get it done by getting it done, regardless of what it takes, regardless of how long it takes, regardless of what you got to go through. You get it done. Period. That's what Jesus is telling these people. If you got enough faith, you can move an entire mountain. Because you said it was going to happen, it happens. That's faith. Try to make it understand in your brain. And nothing shall be impossible unto you, says Jesus. Nothing. Nothing shall be impossible. If you believe you can get it done. And get it done you will. Think about that. Howbeit, this kind goeth not out by prayer and fasting, meaning that demon. That's not how you get that one out. You got to tell that one to leave and make it leave and scare it into leaving. How do you do that? By having the authority of God. What can you infer from that sentence? Well, there's more than one kind of demon, obviously. And there's more than one kind of ways of getting rid of a demon. There's more than one kind of possession. There's a lot you can infer from that sentence. And while they abode in Galilee, Jesus said unto them, the Son of Man shall be betrayed into the hands of men, and they shall kill him, and the third day he shall be raised again. This is the fourth time he has told them on their journey to Jerusalem that he is going there to die and then be resurrected. They do not hear him. And they were exceeding sorry. Of course they're sorry right now, but they forget all about it. And when they were come to Capernaum, they that received tribute money came to Peter and said, doth not your master pay tribute? These are tax collectors. Does not your master pay tribute? Is he not going to give a little to the poor or to whoever's getting the money? And he saith, yes. And when he was come into the house, Jesus prevented him, saying, what thinkest thou, Simon? Of whom do the kings of earth take custom or tribute? Of their own children? Or of the strangers? Peter saith unto him, of strangers. And Jesus saith unto him, then are the children free? This is a little lost in translation because we don't have this problem, but when you have kings, they require a tribute, which means if you want to have audience with the king, you have to give him some money. That's how that works. Temples and such do the same thing. Churches do the same thing to pass around a plate. If you want to be part of the group, you got to put a little money in the plate. Well, Jesus is saying, whoa. What about their subjects? Who are they collecting this money for? Themselves? Are they doing it for the strangers or for the children? Well, if Peter chooses one or the other, then the question is or are the other ones free then? Because they're not free. They're subjects. That's what you are under a king, a subject. You're not free. So the question is very valuable for this period in time to understand. The reason Jesus isn't paying tribute is because he doesn't agree with that. He agrees with all people being equal under God and free. It's called liberty. Notwithstanding, lest we should offend them, go thou to the sea and cast a hook, and take up the fish that first cometh up. And when thou hast opened his mouth, thou shalt find a piece of money. That take and give unto them for me and for thee. Well, Jesus is saying, I don't have any money, but if you'll go catch a fish, he'll bring you some. How are you going to get a fish? Does the fish have a job? Well, apparently somebody dropped it and the fish swallowed it and Jesus called the fish up. That's kind of weird, but that's what he said do, so Peter went and did it. And at the same time came the disciples unto Jesus, saying, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? There's only one great in the kingdom of heaven, and that's God. And Jesus called a little child unto him. Come here, little kid. Set the little kid on his lap and set him in the midst of them. And Jesus said, Verily I say unto you, yet except ye be converted and become as little children, that ye shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. What does that mean? What does converted mean? Well, he's talking to Jews, and so they have a completely different religion, the Orthodox Jewish tradition, the Torah and all that, Talmud, all the things that they read and study, and they believe that, but that is not the way to heaven. That is the way to the Pharisees and the Sadducees. The way to heaven is to convert from Judaism to believe what Christ is teaching, which is what we now call Christianity. He didn't call it that. But that word didn't actually come into context until around Constantinople. Constantine's mother used that as a slang, and the people who followed Christ accepted it. Oh, yeah, we're Christians. It was meant as an insult, but we took it and owned it, sort of. Anyway, you have to be like a little child, meaning you can't be a big, boisterous personality. You have to be like a child, wondrous and curious and open to new ideas and able to learn new things. That's what being as a little child means. And also innocent. You have to be innocent to enter into the kingdom of heaven. You can't enter into the kingdom of heaven if you're laden with sin, because sin cannot exist in the same place God exists. Therefore, you must be like little children. How can you do that? By accepting Jesus Christ. He is the only thing that can remove your sin and make you innocent. And he's only done that by being a sacrifice that covered that sin. Whosoever therefore shall humble himself as a little child, as this little child, the same is greatest in the kingdom of heaven. So being humble makes you great in the kingdom of heaven. And whoso shall receive one such little child as my name receiveth me. Meaning, if you accept this little child into your life as you accepted me. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depths of the sea. In other words, if you hurt a child of God that believes in Christ, if you go after him because of his belief in Christ, you have just killed yourself in the worst possible way. It would be better if you just tied a big, great stone around your neck and cast yourself into the ocean in the deepest part and sank to the bottom. Because woe unto the world because of offenses. For it must needs be that offenses come, but woe to that man by whom the offenses cometh. The offense cometh. Wherefore, if thy hand or thy foot offend thee, cut them off and cast them from thee. It is better for thee to enter into life halt or maimed, rather than having 2 hands or 2 feet to be cast into everlasting fire. Yes, it's better to go to heaven hobbling on 1 foot than it is to go to hell walking on both. If thine eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee. It is better for thee to enter into life. Notice he's not saying heaven, he's saying life, which is what happens after this world, with 1 eye, rather than having 2 eyes to be cast into hellfire. Take heed that ye despise not one of these little ones, children, for I say unto you that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father which is in heaven. Their angels? Children have angels? Everybody has angels. That's what angels are. They're there for us. Interesting. Christ then continues, for the Son of Man is come to save that which was lost. is lost. Those who are lost are the ones who do not understand the hierarchy of the Creator versus the creation. Those who are lost are those who do not have an education in the ways of the Bible. Those who are lost think that atheism is the way to go, for example. That's who Jesus came here to be with. He did not come here for people who were saints, people who were perfect, people who were straight-laced, that did everything right. He did not come here for them. That's why he hung out with sinners. Christ continues, how think ye, if a man have 100 sheep, and one of them be gone astray, doth he not leave 99 and go into the mountains and seeketh that one which is gone astray? Yes, he does. Because that one is just as important as the 99. And if it so be that he find it, verily I say unto you, he rejoiceth more for that sheep than of the 99 which went not astray. He's happy to find it, for sure. That's his livelihood. Even so, it is not the will of your Father which is in heaven that one of these little ones should perish. Perish, meaning to not have everlasting life. Meaning, if you stumble block a child, if you cause a child to not have faith in God or hurt his belief in Christ, you have caused that child to perish, because you can only enter into everlasting life if you believe in Christ. And if you're the responsible one for causing that to happen, then you are held very highly for that crime. Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. If you can take your problems to your siblings in private and not make a thing out of it, not make a scene, you can gain your brother back by working it out, right? But if you go make a scene, chances are you're not going to work it out. But if he will hear thee not, if he will not talk to you in private, then take with thee one or two more. Bring a audience so that he has no choice but to talk to you. That in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established. And this is a theme throughout the Bible. Wherever 2 or more are gathered, those are considered witnesses, right? Even in the old days in the temple, when you went before the magistrate or went before the high priest, you would have to bring 2 or 3 witnesses with you. So much the better. Because if a thing be true, then 3 people would have seen it, right? That's the logic behind it. Anyway, Christ mirrors this idea from the Old Testament that there should be 2 or more gathered together. And he even says that about himself, wherever 2 or more gathered in my name, I will be there too, right? So that's also important. It's hard to lie when you have 3 witnesses, though. But if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it unto the church. That's the next step. First, you try to solve it yourself, privately. Then you bring witnesses. If that don't work, then you take them to the church. But if he neglect to hear the church, let him be unto thee as an heathen man and a publican. If he won't work it out, then it's his problem, not yours. At least you tried. Verily I say unto you, whatsoever ye shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever ye shall loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. What does that mean? Well, he's talking to the disciples, at which he gave the power to do that to. He's not talking to you. So don't think you can do that, but they could. And that means that whatever they do here, they will be able to do there. Again, I say unto you, that if 2 of you shall agree on earth as touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven. That right there is power. Now, you can choose to believe this is true among all people. I don't think it is. I think he's talking to his disciples, and I think he gave them a special gift, and that is that if two of them agree on a thing, then God will make it happen. Then he continues, for where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst of them. Now, I believe that means for everybody. But it could be just them. I don't know. Pardon me. Sorry. Still getting over being sick. Then came Peter to him and said, Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? Till 7 times? 7 times? You hate your brother, don't you? And Jesus saith unto him, I say unto thee, until 7 times, but until 7 times 7. 70 times 7. That's a Hebrewism. He's saying, don't do it 7 times, do it 70 times 7, which means a lot. It's 144, but whatever. It means do it a lot. A lot. I can't remember what number. I think that's wrong. I think it's 1444, but whatever. Somebody look that up. What is 70 times 7? I can't remember. That would have been cool if I'd have got that right, but I didn't. Anyway, Christ is telling you that as many times as you can ask for forgiveness, you should forgive. 4,900. Thank you, Amy. $4,900. 4900. It's 4,900. Or is it 490? Somebody be correct. 70 is almost 100, so that 7 times would be 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 490. Okay, thank you, Dana. All right. Yes, I got it. All right. Therefore is the kingdom of heaven likened unto a certain king, which would take account of his servants. Remember what king that would be? Well, one king that took account of his servants was Solomon. Sorry. And when he had begun to reckon, one was brought unto him which owed him 10,000 talents. A talent is a measurement of money, usually gold or silver. But forasmuch as he had not to pay, his Lord commanded him to be sold, and his wife, and his children, and all that he had, and payment to be made. You're going to pay one way or the other. If you owe the money, you got to pay. The servant therefore fell down and worshipped him, saying, Lord, have patience with me. I will pay thee. Then the Lord of that servant was moved with compassion and loosed him and forgave him his debt. Well, that's nice. Why did he do that, though? But the same servant went out and found one of his fellow servants, which owed him 100 pence, and he laid hands on him and took him by the throat, saying, Pay me that thou owest. And his fellow servant fell down at his feet and besought him, saying, Have patience with me, I will pay thee. And he would not. The one who did get away with it would not let this guy get away with it. He would not, but went and cast him into prison till he should pay the debt. So when his fellow servants saw what was done, they were very, very sorry, and came and told unto their Lord all that was done. Then his Lord, after that, he had called him and said unto him, O thou wicked servant, I forgave thee all that debt, because thou desirest me. Should not thou also have compassion on thy fellow servant, even as I had pity on thee? And his Lord was wroth and delivered him to the tormentors. Those are the people that beat you in prison. Till he should pay all that was due unto him. Now, Christ continues saying, so likewise shall my heavenly Father do also unto you, if ye from your hearts forgive not every one his brother their trespasses. Now, does this sound familiar to you? It should, because it's in the Lord's Prayer. And if you'll pay attention, the Lord's Prayer is kind of coming to life before your eyes here in the succession of the story being told. And when we finally reach the part where Christ says, this is how you should pray, all this stuff has already occurred in little increments throughout the Bible that you have unwittingly been told already. You already know all of this. So it's very simple. You have compassion on your fellow man, and they will have compassion on you. If not, then the whole thing is a waste of time. And it came to pass that when Jesus had finished these sayings, he departed from Galilee and came into the coasts of Judea beyond Jordan. And a great multitude followed him, and he healed them there. The Pharisees also came unto him, tempting him, and saying unto him, is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause? Jesus, I believe, likes debate. And this is what the Pharisees do. They think of wise questions that are going to trip Jesus up. They're always trying to trip him up with his own logic, but Jesus knows what he's talking about, so he doesn't trip up very easily. So, in this day and time, divorce is a typical thing that happens, and they're trying to outlaw it because it seems untoward. And so they've asked him, is it lawful to put away your wife for whatever reason you want? And he answered and said unto them, have you not read? This is the beginning of that. What is he talking about? Well, the Old Testament, because that's what they had. We didn't. We have the whole Bible. They did not, right? They didn't have the Gospels. They had probably up to the book of Isaiah. Who knows what they had, but it wasn't much. Because at this point, the Bible still hasn't been compiled into a big book yet. But what he's saying is, have you not read that he which made them at the beginning made them male and female in pairs? That's God. Did you not read that? It's in Genesis, in case you don't know where it's at. And he said, for this cause shall a man leave the father and mother and cleave to his wife. What does that mean? Become one with another being. Cleave to the wife. And they twain, that means both, those two, shall be one flesh. What does that mean? Well, the only way that two people can become one flesh is to have a child. Am I wrong? Think about it. What is a child but an amalgamation of both DNA of mother and father? Mother and father's DNA does not alter when they get married. But when they have a child, their DNA alters in the child. So when you have a child, you have cleaved to your wife. You are now part of that family. You cannot change it then, even if you get a divorce. You have until that moment to change it. But until that moment, when you have a child, you are now a family. And now there's no more you. Now there's just us. That's what Christ is saying here. Wherefore they are no more twain, but one flesh. They have child now. What therefore God hath joined together, let not man put asunder. Man can't put asunder anything God puts together. Then they said unto him, why did Moses then command to give a writing of divorcement and to put her away? And he saith unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your hearts, suffered you to put away your wives. But from the beginning it was not so. Remember that Moses was put in charge of the law. The law came from Moses. So when you talk about Levitical law, that's from Moses. So he decided what was right and what was wrong. And all civilizations that have any kind of documentation like the Magna Carta or the Constitution are all based on Moses' laws because they were wise. And what Jesus is telling them is that when Moses became in charge of the law, he suffered you idiots a way out of your predicaments. But I'm telling you, when God put this thing in motion, that was not his intention. That's not what he wanted. But people are stupid, so you got to have a clause for stupidity. That's basically what he's saying. And I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication. What is fornication? It does not mean sex. And shall marry another, committeth adultery. And whosoever marrieth her which is put away, doth commit adultery, unless it be for fornication. What is fornication? It's a very special word. Fornication is sex outside of the marriage. It is not sex. A lot of people like to use that word to mean sex. That's not what it means. Sex is beautiful. The very first thing God ever said to mankind was have lots of sex, fill up the earth. But it means sex outside of a marriage. It means to cheat on your wife, to commit adultery. That's the only reason you should be able to divorce your wife. And his disciples say unto him, if the case of the man to be so with his wife, is it not good to marry? If the case is that the man's going to be unhappy with his wife, isn't it better to just not marry? No. But he said unto them, all men cannot receive this saying. All men are not going to be able to hear what I'm about to tell you, save they whom it is given. For there are some eunuchs which were so born from their mother's womb. There are some eunuchs which were made eunuchs of men. And there be eunuchs which have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. He that is able to receive it, let him receive it, meaning marriage. So what God is saying here, Christ, if you are of the kind that can marry and have children, then do so. That this is a blessing from God. It's a gift that people come together. But not all people do that. It's okay. Even back then, there are people that cannot and will not have children. That's not a crime. It's not a crime to not procreate. But it is a crime if you are of the kind that can, because that's why you're here. Then were there brought unto him little children. It's time to change the subject now. That he should put his hands on them and pray. And the disciples rebuked them. Oh no, Jesus doesn't like that. Let the little children come. But Jesus said, suffer the little children, and forbid them not to come unto me. For of such is the kingdom of heaven. Like children clamoring to their parent. That's kind of how the relationship between the spirits and God is. I'm going to cut this short. My voice is cutting out on me. And he laid hands on them and departed thence. So he gave them the time. He spent time with the children, which is very beautiful. It's very important. Because there's a lot of people that have no time for children. They say, get out of here, kid. I'm busy. Can't you see I'm doing something? Don't be that guy. Love the children. The children are the most important thing in the world and the most innocent. So give them what their due is. That's where we're going to stop for today. We'll pick up tomorrow night, 1916. Let me highlight that. Man, that was a beautiful read tonight. I hope you got something out of that. I hope you learned something. I hope you feel the touch of God in the story, because it's there. Now, I hope that it convinces you to reach out with both hands to your Father, Almighty God, and invite him into your life and bring him to yourself. That's the only way it's going to work. He's not going to come to you. You have to go to him. Anyway, while you're thinking about that, I'm going to play this ad and go pee. So you know what I say every time I say it. So just watch the thing and I'll be back. And hit that Cash App button. $, Jake Johnson Band. All right. Thank you. I needed that. Whew. All right. Let's see where we left off in the chat. Here we go. Bill Bennett says, don't look at that stuff. That will get you in trouble. Eyes always on. Talking about the dark web. Yes, dark web is bad stuff. Bad news. There's a lot of degeneracy out there, says Rich. Patty says, try to do what you know to be right. Try to do the right thing. You know that's right. And that is what you should always do. If you know it to be the right thing, you should do it. You should always wonder whether you're doing the wrong thing or not. Like religions, says Angela. Yes, like religions. I don't remember what you're referring to, but I agree with it. Religions are not the way to go. John H. says, Hitler was not even German. He was Austrian. Yes, but he did do his thing in Germany, which was the point. Patty says, Christianity is a reality, not a religion, and that's right. Correct. Well, the belief in Christ is a reality. There are parts of Christianity that are religious, such as the Catholics, the Protestants, the Pentecostals, the Baptists, the Holiness, you name it, all of them. Those are religions. I don't subscribe to any of those because I'm not bound by a religion. I'm looking for the truth, and the truth is in the words of the book, and the book is not religious or inherent to religiosity. Amanda says, hi, John. Mr. P says, not to mock, but it does amaze me that they are chosen sometimes. Yeah, I think you're misunderstanding the word chosen. That is used a lot. We're the chosen ones. Yeah, but chosen for what? Are you aware for what? They're chosen to be stubborn and stiff-necked and hardened of heart. That's why they're chosen. Not because they're blessed in any kind of way, special. They are, but chosen doesn't necessarily mean number one team. They were the ones chosen to run the tabernacle in the beginning. If you go back to the beginning of the Bible, when they first came out of Egypt, they put this whole tabernacle thing together, and all the tribes came together there. That's when they became the chosen ones. But I don't take that as a mock. That's a good question, John. Patty says, and so are we. We are chosen also, but not in that way. John says, hi, everyone. Hope all is well. Hey, John, good to see you, buddy. We are not of the tribes. Well, you don't actually know that, do you? You don't actually know that. There are 12 of them, and they're vastly different in their appearance and in their nationality. But we don't exactly know where they went. We know where some think they are, but, you can trace some etymology back. You can trace some words back and find hints of things, such as Russia being Rush, which is red, being Edom, which is Esau, and you can find where his tribe comes in, or what tribe he belonged to. You can do that, but You don't know for sure who these people are. Only person that knows for sure who all the people are is God. There are Jews and there are Gentiles. There are heathens, people that aren't part of either sect. But whatever. I think we're all a little muddy. Patty says, we have eyes to see and ears to hear. I hope so. And we understand Cain was from another bloodline. Exactly. Which is why Christ calls his descendants a generation of vipers, of snakes. They are of their father, the devil. That can't be clearer. Mr. P says, just going by the way it's been explained to me time and time again, Patty. They always leave out the reason why they were chosen, though. Angela says, Patty, I don't call myself a Christian. It is a religious sect, in my opinion. Some of them are. A Christian is one who follows Christ. A Christ man, a Christian. But most people that have religious groups call themselves Christians. So I guess it depends on what you want to call yourself. Doesn't matter. You know who else wasn't a Christian? Christ. I do believe in Jesus, but no religion, including Christianity, has all the truths. Well, again, Christianity, as we know it today, is largely from the Catholic or the Protestant sects, and the little offshoots that go under both of those things. If you go overseas, you'll find Christians. If you go down to South America, you'll find Christians. And they're slightly different. If you go to Mexico, their Christians are slightly different. They're a little weird, a little voodoo-y. So every little group of Christians believe in a certain kind of way. That's called a religion. But the underlying truth of what they are believing is that Christ is Lord, and that's not a religion, that's the truth. Which is why we here are untethered. We are not connected to any of those religions. Patty says, I guess I'm just shining my little light. Sorry. No need to be sorry. You shine on, baby. Mr. P says, no, you're right. Let that light shine. Amen. Angela says, no reason to be sorry, Patty. Not everyone sees Christianity or any religions the same. Well, they shouldn't, because they're not the same. Patty says, thank you and prayers. Angela says, I love your shining light, Patty. Right on. Mr. P says, I've heard this quote many times, often I think of it. For what is a man gain? Man, that stuff is breaking up in my chest, but I apologize for coughing on y'all so much. Dakota Wright says, amen. Hey, Dakota, welcome. Amanda says, hi. Dakota says, hey, friends. Linda Davis says, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. When Walter wasn't home to sing to the kids before bed, I would sing that song to them. Oh, that's a pretty song. I've sang that song to my kids too. Mr. P says, how could they see the pain? How could they see the plan God had? It's understandable that they wouldn't believe Jesus could die. The other ignorant moments in my mind aren't as forgivable in my mind, right? Well, they could see the plan of God because Jesus was explaining it to them. That's how they saw it, right? So they did know more than the average person. Like you and I, if we were existing at that time, we wouldn't have known what was going on. We would have just heard this name wafting through town, healing people, and it's amazing. Let's go check that out. It's like going to the movies, you know. Let's go see what that guy's doing. He's not the only one that did that, by the way. But the disciples of Christ, were told what was going to happen and what was coming. And they had an understanding of it that we still don't have to this day. So Christ let them in on secrets that we do not have. It's kind of important. Mr. P says, that's sweet, Linda, that you sang to your kids. Yes, it is. And a sweet song, too. Mr. P says, reminds me of this latest generation. There's a lot of what's happening now. paralleling what's happening then. A whole lot. Believe that. Do you know what a eunuch is, by the way? And Christ just referred to them. He said there were some that were made that way naturally, meaning they were born that way. There were some that made themselves that way, and there were some that were made that way by other men. Do you know what a eunuch is? A eunuch is a person who has their private parts cut off. Transgender. The problem is the perversion of that, which is not to cut off the private parts to avoid having sex, but to cut off the private parts to have sex with the opposite sex. That's the weird part. That's the part Satan's involved in. If they were just removing their parts, that'd be fine with me. I have no problem with that. Matter of fact, they probably get into heaven faster than me. But that's not what they're doing. They're doing it for a different reason. But that's what a eunuch is. A person without private parts. A male without private parts. Amy Bordeaux says, hey, y'all. Hey, Amy. Amanda says, hi. Amy says, where is my number one? I hadn't seen her in a while. Probably over watching on Wimkin. Amanda says, I don't know, Amy, too. Dana says the word Christian is found in the Bible. It did not come to existence until Constantinople 300 years later. Greetings. Yes, that's what I said. It was Constantine and his mother who used that term flagrantly, I might add. There was another word for it before that when the Romans were involved. In fact, they used the symbol of the fish to identify themselves because it meant something. I forget exactly how that works, but the word fish that they use in Hebrew translates, the letters translates into something similar to INRI, which is Jesus Christ, King of the Jews, which is some kind of anagram. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but they use that symbol to identify themselves as Christ people. It wasn't until Constantinople that they began to use the term Christian favorably. It was not intended favorably. It was an insult, but they took it and ran with it. Yeah, we're Christians, all right. Oh, Mr. P just hit me with a $5 super chat. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. And he says, God bless all. Don't forget to let that light shine. Amen. And thank you, John, for the super chat. I appreciate that very much. Getting thin this month, so I appreciate it. Christmas was hard on everybody. And hi, Dana. Nice to see you. And thank you for the information. Amanda says, hi, Dana, hon. And Dana says, Acts 11:28. And the disciples were called Christians first in Antioch. Well, they may have been called that, but it wasn't a term that was used. And then Acts 26:28. Then Agrippa said unto Paul, almost thou pursuedest me to be a Christian. Yeah. Bill Bennett says, I feel lost, but I have hope in Jesus' name I pray. Well, Bill, you were not lost. You were in the right place. I promise. And always pray in Jesus' name. That will get you through a lot. That'll lead you to the truth, and the truth shall set you free. And Dana says, hi, Amanda, heart. Mr. P says, hi, Dana, hope you're well. And hi, Amy. Amy says hi, and hello, Amy says Angela, and hello, Dana says Angela. And Dana says, hi, dear John, I am doing fine, but my dear grandfather worries me. He is becoming fragile, and it breaks my heart. Yes, that is a rough thing to watch. Somebody that you've admired and grew up with, watching them fade away. That is not fun, and I don't envy anybody that has to go through that. God bless you, Dana, and God bless your grandfather. Amy says $4.90. Amanda says $4.90. Dana says $4.90. Amy says, 490. What's a zero? And Mr. P says, that's sad. I really hope his condition improves, Dana. I'll pray for him as I do all our people here. Thank you, John. And Amanda says, prayers for him, Dana. And Dana says, thank you, my dear friends. Thank you for being here. You are a dear friend, and we do hope that your grandfather gets better. And Dana says, thank you, Amanda. Mr. P says, if only people were like doves. Dana says, I refrain talking about DNA concerning the Bible because it is unbiblical and it creates confusion. That's not correct. That's not correct at all. How do you figure DNA is unbiblical? Let me illustrate something for you. First of all, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and then he created Adam in the garden. And he saw that that wasn't working out, so he put Adam to sleep. And then the Bible uses a word that we translate into the word rib, but that word is curve. It also can be translated as half, right? Well, what are we talking about? You think he cut Adam in half and made half of him Eve and half of him Adam again? Or did he take part of Adam's DNA and take the feminine out of it and make Eve with it? Which we know now that DNA has a male and a female part, which is how DNA works. And it is a curve, a helix curve. And both of those words are used in the Bible, in the translation, to describe how God made Eve from Adam's half or from his curve. It is a myth that men have less ribs than women. That's not true. And so a lot of that's confused with hooey science. But trust me when I tell you that not only is DNA scientific, but it's also biblically accurate, because the next part of Genesis, there's an entire book of begats. That's called a bloodline. Bloodlines are traced through DNA, mitochondrial DNA. That's from mother to mother, not father to father like we do. But in the Hebrew tradition, it's from mother to mother. That's DNA. That's how you tell who is who. So it is biblical. They just didn't use that word. Then he says, this is biblical, and hath made of one blood all nations of men, for to dwell on all the face of the earth, and hath determined the times before appointed, and the bounds of their habitation. Well, you need to go back and read that entire verse, because it's telling you what it's talking about. It ain't talking about every human being on planet Earth today. It's talking about every human being on planet Earth at that time, which is the sixth-day creation. All men of one blood. But then Adam was created, which is a different blood. Amanda says, great read, Jake. Thank you. You're welcome. But it is biblical, and I promise you it is. Dana says, thank you, Jake. Heart, you're welcome. Mr. P says, good stuff. Thank you, Mr. P. Dana says, God calls all his people his children. True. We are all the children of God. He is our Father. Therefore, we are his children. Correct. We also have DNA. Two things can be true at the same time. We are all God's children. All God's children are not exactly the same. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but there's people with different shades and different features, and those are products of DNA. Mr. P says, difficult to ignore DNA when it comes to the Bible. It references God's chosen all over the place. Edward says, great Bible study. Thank you, Diego. I hope you enjoyed it. Angela says, yes, exactly. I believe in no religion. I do too. John says, Jake, I got a question for you. Is there a heaven? I've been wondering this. How come no crashed planes into it? Puzzled. What? Let me try to read that again. Dana, I'll get back to you in a second, John. First of all, you were incorrect. The word Russia comes from the word Rush, which comes from the word red, which comes from the word Edom. That is not an opinion, that's a fact. I didn't say Russia was a direct descendant of Edom. I said you could look at etymology to find out where the tribes went. That's what I said. And what I said was an example like the word Russia. I did not say Russia was from Edom. What I said is the word can be traced back to the word, which would give you an idea who the people might be. But that is a guess, and I said that too. I did not speak in opinions. I spoke in facts, which is what I do here. I try very hard not to put my opinions out. Pay attention before you jump the gun at me. Second of all, the point of that conversation was we don't actually know where all 12 tribes are right now, currently, in today's time. Everybody's a little mixed up. That means people have been breeding and breeding and breeding for so long that very few people know who they are. There are very few pure bloodlines on planet Earth at this current moment. Only God knows where those 12 tribes currently exist and in what quantities. I said the only way that you could find out, you could do etymology, which means tracing the study of words to find out where people might have went. Because each one of the words that is ascribed to each tribe, their name, i.e. Dan and Zebulun and all those, mean things. And you can find evidence of those names in parts of the world. I did not say that's who they were. It's equally possible that China could be part of that group because China is surrounded by red things. It's also equally possible that Scotland is where Roosh came from, could be those people. So, anyway, it's not my opinion. It's a fact that you don't know where the 12 tribes are, which was what I was saying. So calm down and pay attention when I talk. I'm not speaking as clearly as I normally do because I'm trying to breathe, but trust me, I'm not deceiving people with my opinions. Anyway, everything I say is backed by Bible. John says, Jake, I have a question for you. Is there a heaven? I've been wondering this. How come no crashes planes into it? Puzzled. How come no planes crash into heaven? Is that what you're asking? Heaven is not on earth currently. Heaven is wherever God is, and there's two of them. There's heaven, and then there's heavens, plural, meaning more than one. So my guess is, and this is a guess, this is my opinion, it's not biblical fact because Bible doesn't really go into where heaven is, except for in the beginning when it describes the situation when God created the earth. There was a big void. It was formless, and then it became habitable, meaning the earth was placed in it. So my guess is somewhere above outer space is heaven. I don't know. There's a part in the Bible that talks about waters above waters, meaning that there's waters on earth and then there's waters above the stars. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what the Bible seems to suggest. Your guess is as good as mine, but my go-to theory is wherever God is, it's like Air Force One. Wherever God's at, that's heaven. That's my guess. I don't know. But there is, in fact, a heaven. Now, the reason planes haven't crashed into it is because it's not in the clouds. That's just air, right? Here's the thing you might want to be thinking about, though. When you die, you go to that place where God is. When Judgment Day happens, it happens here on planet Earth. So that means he comes here. Then if you read Revelations, there's the new city of Jerusalem that comes down and is placed up presumably where old city of Jerusalem is. I don't know. But that's God physically coming to this planet. So at that point, heaven will be here on earth. It isn't currently. Hope that helps. Dennis Bigfoot says, hey, Jake and chat. What's up, Dennis? Good to see you. And Amanda says, hi, Dennis. Kevin Cox says, hey, Jake. Hey, Kevin. Nice to see you. Glad you could drop in. How's April? Dennis says, hey, Amanda. And Amanda says, hi, Kevin. And Dana says, that word Rus comes from the word ruik. That's not true. Is a lengthy history. Are you saying ruik or ruak? I can't really tell what you're writing there. It may be. No, the word Russia comes from the word rush. Trust me on this. I've done the study. There may be other iterations of it, but it ultimately ends up with the word Rush, who founded that country, which is a name, by the way. It has a lengthy history which goes back to the 900s, late 800s. Okay. Well, you and I may disagree, but according to what I've studied, a person came from Scotland and founded that area. Amanda says, thank you, Mr. P. And Amy says, I'm going to feed my horses. Have a great night and catch y'all guys soon. Well, thank you for being here, Amy, and feed them horses. And Amanda says, good night, Amy. Mr. P says, good night, Amy. And Patty says, I believe we are... Hold on, my chat jumped. I believe we are where we're supposed to be. If you are following the Father's word, he places his children where he needs them to be. I agree with that 100%. I do believe God puts people where they belong. Preach it. DNA. Well, that's what I'm saying. It is biblical. Kevin says, hey, Amanda. And Mr. P says, DNA is also proven by the fact that the Jews are chosen. How else do you separate them but by DNA? Mitochondrial DNA, which is from mother to mother, which is how they know their descendants. Not just a tribe or tribes. Well, if you are of a particular tribe, then you know who you belong to, right? And all 12 tribes came from Abraham. So that's where that Abrahamic tradition comes from. Also, the Muslims have a little piece of that also through Ishmael, who was an illegitimate son of Abraham. Not exactly his finest moment, but that's where the idea comes from. So it's not entirely wrong either. It is wrong, but not entirely. John says, sorry, Jake, my spelling is really bad. That's all right. I think I got what you were saying. Patty says, I love this study. Thank you, Patty. Mr. P says, heaven is on another ethereal plane. Don't know. The Bible is not clear on where heaven is, just not here. Mr. P says, from what I understand. It's possible. I don't know. It's not clear. It could be on the Pleiades star system might be where God's at right now. I don't know. It could be any number of things. I know there's a place in the Bible that talks about angels leaving their habitation, which means they have a habitation to be at, which sounds like a planet to me. I don't know. I have no idea. There's also another place in the Bible that says the stars sing together. That indicates that they have some kind of intuition or thought. I don't know. I have no idea. John says, because I had a dream about it the other night. Thanks, Jake. I had some weird dreams the other night, too. Must have been a night for weird dreams. Thank you for subscribing, Joseph Woodworth. I appreciate you. Mr. P says, unsure if ethereal is the correct word. It's close enough. I got what you mean. Just how I heard it when the men were talking about it. Not like I had closed caption. Well, I mean, it's possible. I don't know. It could be an ethereal plane. It could be an ethereal plane. It could be something else. I don't know. God could be inside of a black hole. Not likely, though. That doesn't even sound right. Mr. P says they may have been full of shit, for all I know, on the subject. They did claim to use the Bible in decoding this point, or deciding this point. Yeah, a lot of people do claim that. Let me explain something to you. There's a lot of people out there who come in the name of Christ. That is called taking the Lord's name in vain, and it is one of the commandments for a reason. You're not supposed to do that. If God didn't send you, you're not supposed to go. Period. You should never tell someone God told you something if he didn't tell you, because that's wrong. And that puts you in danger. Bill Bennett says, I know I'm here with you all for a reason. I'm not sure why, LOL. Well, I know why. God wants you to learn something about his word. That's why he put you here with somebody that can teach you. Patty says, I has not seen nor ear heard or have entered into the heart of man the things which God has prepared for those who love him. 1 Corinthians 2:9. Yeah, there's a lot going on in heaven when we get there that we're not going to be privy to until we get there. There's just some things we're not supposed to know. Mr. P says, I love it too, Patty. Dana says, I have done diligent study on Rook dynasty and the beginnings of Russia and its origin. It is a Slavic word. Exactly. That's not what I'm talking about. You need to pay attention to what I said. Listen to the words. I know English isn't your first language, but trust me, I'm not saying Russia is Edom. I'm saying etymology is the only way you can decide who the 12 tribes are. That's the only way. There's no other way. You can't DNA test for a tribe. Unless you have examples of the first tribe's DNA, which we don't have. So there's no way to find out. You're arguing a point I didn't make, is what I'm saying. Never once have I questioned your ability to study. I feel like you question mine a lot. Mr. P says, same, Bill, just feel as if I'm supposed to be here. You are supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be here. Everybody in this chat is supposed to be here. That's the reason it exists. I didn't do this because I wanted to. Believe that. We got a new subscriber, Joseph Woodworth. Thank you for subscription. Mr. P says, hello, Joseph. And Bill says, God lives in the sun, and I am light. LOL. I thought about that before, too. Because nobody actually knows what the sun is, but one thing we do know for certain is it's not fire. But it is hot. Everybody likes to think in science that the sun is a star, although they can't see other stars clearly enough to make that discernment. That's what they think it is. Although other stars seem to be way, 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 way bigger than the sun that we have. Not entirely sure that it's the same thing. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, and I haven't been out there. But I would hazard a guess that it may not be the same thing as a star. Any natural images that I have seen of stars up close, which aren't any, actually, because they're too far away to be up close, but there are some cameras that can zoom in on the lights that we see, and they look like electrodes. They don't look like fire. They don't look like plasma. They look like electricity flowing in ether, like a light bulb or something like that. It's very interesting. But they don't look like what the sun looks like. So I'm not entirely convinced they're the same thing. But science seems to be, so go with that. Kevin says, good night. Well, hello and good night to you too, Kev. Nice to see you, buddy. Amanda says, good night, Kevin. Mr. P says, Dana is sure got me interested. And I'm going to read up on it. Any sources you'd suggest? Absolutely. And trust me, she knows what she's talking about, but we have a misunderstanding here, as we typically do sometimes. That's quite all right. John says, thanks, Jake, and everyone, saying good night. You all have a blessed night and your families. John, you do the same and your family. We'll see you tomorrow night. God bless you. Amanda says, good night, John. And Patty says, Kenites. That's right. Don't forget the Kenites. Those are the descendants of Cain. Mr. P says, good night, John. Mr. P says, good night, Kevin. Missed that. And Danny says, I pay very good attention, Jake. You said at the beginning that the word Rush means red. No. I said the word Russia means red. And then I said the word Russia. Actually, what I said was the word Russia comes from the word Rush, which means red, R-U-S-H, which is a person from Scotland. And Rush comes from a place that may very well be the land of the Edomites. I said that as an example of how you could find where the 12 tribes are. Now, you're confusing me. I didn't say Russia was red. I said Rush was red. But the word red does appear in several places in the world if you look through the etymology of the words. So you can infer ideas that way. That doesn't make it correct because there's no actual correct way to discern where the 12 tribes are. The one thing I know for sure about the 12 tribes is the people that are calling themselves Jews currently today are not them. I do know that. I know that because the Bible correctly describes them to be doing such a thing, and it tells you who they are. But I don't know where the 12 tribes are. Neither does anybody else. Dana says, OMG. I know, arguing with me is like hitting your head against a brick wall. I got it. But I'm clear on what I was talking about when I said that. I was talking about etymology, not what the word Russia means. I just used that as an example. I know etymology is your passion. You're still arguing the wrong point. I didn't say that's what the word meant. I used it as an example to describe what I was talking about. I'm not an etymologist. However, I have done extensive studies on names and words. But it isn't a passion of mine. And you are incorrect. The word R-U-S-H, which means Rush, which is a name, does in fact mean red. It does. Dennis Bigfoot says, good night. And Amanda says, good night, Dennis. And Mr. P says, good night, Dennis. And Patty says, Revelations 2. Right on. And Dana says, I'm a linguist, Jake, and etymology is my passion. Well, good. You can keep me correct when I screw things up. However, in this instance, I was not suggesting that the word Russia meant red. I was using it as an example of how you could get backwards to a meaning to describe where one of the tribes went. That's what I was saying. I was not suggesting that the word Russia meant red. I thought that was clear, but maybe it wasn't. Mr. P says, all I know is one word isn't or shouldn't be enough to divide this group. Everyone has a place here. Well, I would hate to think that something like an argument would divide this group. That's kind of silly. We're just talking about a disagreement of understanding. I don't dislike Dana. I hope she doesn't dislike me. I think this is just two people bickering over what a thing they said meant. It's not a division. Nobody's talking about busting up the group because somebody said something somebody didn't like. That's kind of silly. I agree with you, Mr. P. We're all God's children. Let a bit of that light shine. Agreed. Thank you, John. Patty says, Smyrna and Philadelphia. Those are the two churches that are teaching the right thing, correct. Danny says, Rush might be Scottish, nothing to do with the Slavic language. Correct. I didn't say anything about the Slavic language. Yes, it is true that the Russian language is Slavic-based. Russia has not always been Russia. There were other people there before. What I said was Rush, which is from Scotland. You're correct, not Slavic. And that word means red. And that word comes from somewhere. which was the point I was making. Now, whoever lives in Russia now was not the people that lived in Russia when that place was founded, meaning when it became a country, not just woods with nobody in it. Bill Bennett says, I had a friend tell me that USA is the eagle, Russia the bear, and China the leopard, and forgot the rest. I think he was talking about the four-headed beast in Revelations. He thought it was 4 countries. Well, that's not entirely incorrect. I don't know if America plays a role in that situation or not, because they were in, if I'm not mistaken, I can't remember exactly, but I think they were in what later became Babylon. And we're talking about the first kings of that area. And we're talking about a dream that he had where he saw things. And then Daniel came and explained those things to him. I think that's what we're talking about. Unless you're talking about the thing in Revelations, and that's a different thing. Yep, it says the beast in Revelations. I'm sorry. Forget what I said about Daniel. That's a different thing. Okay, the beast in Revelations is also a metaphor for groups of people, right? But the beast that they're talking about in Revelation is called a Zoe. It is an actual angel that exists in heaven, and it does a specific thing. There are several different types of angels that exist in heaven, and that's one of them. And apparently it has 4 heads. I don't know. Mr. P says, it used to be a Viking kingdom in Russia. Before that, it was the Hunnic people, or the Huns. Correct. Mr. P says, then after that, some point came the Cossacks. I don't know anything about that period of time. But yes, Russia has been many things for many, many generations. It's only for the last, 400 years been what we know of as Russia. But if you go back and listen, what I said was Russia was founded by a person named Rush, which means red. I did not say Russia meant red. I said Rush means red. Anyway, that's enough for me. I'm exhausted. I hope you guys had fun tonight. I hope the argument was fruitful in some fashion. And I hope that we have many, many, many more because I enjoy it. And I hope that everybody has a great night. It's been a great night. I enjoyed the study immensely, says Mr. P. Thank you, and so did I. And I enjoy every second I have with you people. You guys are just fantastic. I love every single one of you. And Rush doesn't mean red. Okay. I'll have to show you, I guess. I'll do a video on it, maybe. Amanda says, good night, all. See you tomorrow night at 8:30. Eastern Standard Time right here on Untethered Live for Bible study. Linda Davis says, okay, I just looked up Rush or Russ for the meaning of red. It's R-U-S-H, and it is a name, not a word. Patty says, I had a great night. Thank you. And thank you, Patty. Bill Bennett says, thanks, guys. God bless you all. I'll go look it up, and I'll bring it to your attention next time we get together. And that way you'll know that I'm not full of hot air, that the things that I say do come from certain places. Anyway. All right. That's enough. I love you guys. Take care of yourself. God bless each and every one of you. May his blessings abound in your lives. May his fruit fill your lives full of joy. And may his grace light your footsteps every which way you go. Now, while you're out there going, be nice to somebody, because that's why we're here. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If you can't do that, you are behind in the game. So check that out, try it, and watch it improve your life. I promise you it will. Rus is the land that later became Russia. Yes, it is. But it was named after the person who founded the area, whose name was Rush, or Roosh, from Scotland, which is a different language. Go look that word up and you'll see. I'll find it for you if you can't find it. Mr. P says, hey, gang, always a pleasure. Much love. Good night, dear Dana. Heart. Yes. And see you all tomorrow night. And Dana says, heart back at you. Amanda says, many, many hearts. Patty says, good night, Miss Dana. Dana says, his name is Ruick. Okay. We'll find out. Until then, I'm looking forward to it. Have a great night, and thank you so much for watching.